All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to our study of the excellent path of enlightenment. I think we might be approaching the last session. Maybe there is one more session. Anyway, let's see. So kindly generate the intention to apply this for the purpose of really the highest goal we could have, and also the only actually realistic goal that we could have, which is to be effective in our objective of happiness. So while we generally operate with happiness pretty much every moment of our existence, then we fail. All the attempts are based on the delusion of a self and a dualistic miscomprehension of reality, and all sentient beings suffer from this. So with the application of the path, the study and the practice of the path, our objective is to get to the bottom of this. And we do so not without an awareness of all other sentient beings who are equally suffering. So that's why we're practicing, and that's why we are studying. So in the preliminary practices, we've now reached the heart really of what the ngöndro is about. We've created the foundations of understanding our situation through the outer preliminaries, the reflections that turn the mind to Dharma. We've engaged in the path through taking refuge. We've made this path vast through our generating the Mahayana aspiration of complete enlightenment for self and all beings. And we've eliminated what obstructs the path, our confused actions and the karmic traces they create. We've accumulated all the necessary wealth that is needed on the path through the offering of the mandala. And now we're penetrating to the heart of realization through apprenticing, approaching, engaging with an embodiment of enlightenment directly. We are engaging with the Nirmanakaya of our Buddha nature, the manifestation of our innate potential, which is then the external guru. So not keeping the guru merely as perceived as somebody who is external and another person, we then engage in the practice of Guru Yoga, where we see the Guru in terms of the Guru's absolute nature, this undying quality of enlightenment in the form of the deity. This deity can then be Padmasambhava, it can be Vajradhara, it can be various ways we can perceive the teacher, but we're not seeing the teacher as ordinary. And we ourselves are also not seeing ourselves as ordinary, visualizing ourselves according to what we truly are, namely also at the ultimate level, unconfused and free from obscurations, and hence we visualize ourselves as Vajrayogini. So last time we went through the 7-line supplication, and the 7-line supplication, like I said, can be found as a beautiful commentary by Jamyang Khyentse that highlights the qualities of the 7-line supplication, its meaning, the outer and inner meanings. Presently, we then are going to be reciting the Vajra Guru mantra. So, In general, when we speak about mantra, it means that which protects the mind. So we also sometimes refer to the entire Vajrayana teaching as mantra. Mantra means that refers to manas, the mind, and cha implies protection. So in Tibetan is yikyop. And with the practice of mantra, we are operating from the resultant perspective, and we really do so with an appreciation that enlightenment is already present, and we invoke this spontaneous presence of enlightenment through the recitation of a mantra. So we can do this in various ways, but this is the theme of the resultant vehicle approach. Khyentse Rinpoche writes, after the 7-line prayer, recite the 12-syllable mantra of Guru Padmasambhava. This mantra is the quintessence of the 12 branches of the Buddha's teachings. So very often we would classify the Buddha's teachings in 12 ways. I can't remember exactly what these are, but the mantra having 12 syllables, they then represent these 12. The 12 syllables of the mantra purify the 12 interdependent links, which perpetuate ignorance and suffering. They recall the 12 deeds displayed by Guru Rinpoche during his manifestation in this universe. This mantra is addressed not only to Guru Rinpoche, but also to the 3 jewels, the 3 roots, and the infinite number of peaceful and wrathful Buddhas. So we shouldn't think that in the mantra of Guru Rinpoche that there's something lacking in any way. I'm laughing because I remember once one of my friends was with Khyentse Rinpoche, and he asked her, "What are you reciting?" And she says, "I'm reciting the Vajraguru mantra." And he said, "Don't you like the Mani mantra?" Of course, he was just teasing her, but Rinpoche sometimes would tease in this way of just sort of like attempting to take sides and so forth. Anyway, the Vajraguru mantra, and as all mantras, they're a bit like, you could say, there's this holographic quality that everything is contained within a single mantra. And this, of course, applies in any way that we engage with the enlightened aspect. There's not something that's lacking, not like we need to bring in something else. Everything is complete in any given mantra that we're chanting. But particularly then we always refer to Guru Rinpoche as the embodiment of the 3 roots, the 3 kayas, the 3 jewels. When we have the syllable Om Ahom, the first 3 syllables of the mantra, they stand for the 3 aspects of Guru Rinpoche corresponding to the 3 kayas. Buddha Amitabha, the Dharmakaya, Avalokiteshvara, the Sambhogakaya, and Padmasambhava, the Niyamanakaya. So this is how we traditionally explain Guru Rinpoche's existence, that he sprung forth from the heart of the Buddha Amitabha, and as the syllable Shri, embodying Avalokiteshvara, and then manifested on the seat of a lotus in the Dana Kosha Lake in Uddiyana, it's Padmasambhava. And that makes sense, I think, to many people who are comfortable with this way of understanding reality. And that is as good a way of understanding reality as any. And it's also understanding the purity and the presence of the sacred. Sometimes also we can understand the 3 syllables in terms of the empty nature, its luminous or cognitive capacity, and the unity of the 2 as being the Niyamanakaya and the way that all manifestations appear. So there's various ways of understanding the 3 kayas. But anyway, with the chanting Om the Om Ahom, we are invoking these 3 aspects of reality. Vajra indicates Guru Rinpoche's unchanging adamantine wisdom. So Vajra, which is this scepter that the god Indra holds, is said to be indestructible Vajra. And this also means then is synonymous with, for example, Buddha nature when we speak about the Vajrayana. So here, this indestructible quality is associated with Guru Rinpoche's wisdom. Guru means heavy in Sanskrit and refers to the enormous weight of the Guru's, of the teacher's qualities. It also refers to the massive benefit one derives from following his instructions and the enormous harm one creates for oneself and others if one does not follow them. So heavy in this sense is understood as the sort of the authority and the quality of Guru Rinpoche. And we also sense this when we're with persons, not in the sense that they're heavy as in depressed, but rather in that they have a lot of, I think it's in Latin they say pondus, which means just weight in the sense of authority, that somebody has great character, great authenticity, great authority. Pema, or lotus, and we, of course, then sometimes say Padma as well, refers to Guru Rinpoche's name and to his immaculate birth upon a lotus, upon the pollen bed of a lotus flower. Siddhi refers to the common and supreme accomplishments. So we talk about siddhi as simply meaning accomplishments, of which there are two. There's the siddhis that we think of in terms of extraordinary powers, and then there is the real siddhi, which is freedom from confusion and attainment of enlightenment. And hum, or hum, is a call to Guru Rinpoche requesting him to bestow these accomplishments upon us. So hum is sometimes spelled H-U-M, that sometimes we want to emphasize the Sanskrit origin of the mantras. So then we, instead of Pema, we say Padma, instead of Benzar, we say Vajra, and sometimes instead of hum, we say hum, and so forth. So the Tibetans themselves will always say, please do it properly in Sanskrit. Nevertheless, the Tibetans themselves will continually chant in with their Tibetan pronunciation. So we sometimes have these alternatives. Sometimes it's hung, sometimes it's hum. Khyentse Rinpoche says, recite the 7-line prayer 100,000 times and the mantra 1,300,000 times, which is 100,000 times for each of the 12 syllables, plus 100,000 more to compensate for any defects in the recitation. So that's how we would do it if we're doing it in general. But then again, note in the Dharma-ga, we're counting time. So at that stage, I think there's a particular, I forget how many hours is allocated to this. I think maybe I forget how many it is. We have the overview somewhere, and also depending on the ngöndro you're doing, it's slightly different. But anyway, we do that according to the time we have in the ngöndro, this allocation of time that we stick with. Alternatively, if you wish to do the recitation more briefly, you may recite the mantra 400,000 times. So that's an alternative if you don't wish to do it completely. Of all practices, Guru Yoga is the most profound and yet presents no dangers or risk. It does not involve the complex and difficult visualization of mandalas required in the generation phase. Neither does it have any of the risks involved in the meditation upon the channels, energies, and inner heat that is practiced in the perfection stage. So in Vajrayana practice, we invoke this already spontaneously present enlightened nature. We settle within it, and we settle within it according to the development stage practices such as sadhana practice, and also in the completion stage practices according to the practices of nadi, prana, and bindu, in which we integrate this experience in various ways. But of all of these practices are premised on the insight that comes from the Guru Yoga, the mingling through the devotion the mingling of one's own mind with the teacher's wisdom. So without this quality of the Guru Yoga, all the other practices really don't really attain their intended value. And so the Guru Yoga is that place where this foundation is established. Khyentse Rinpoche says, at the same time, if we practice Guru Yoga correctly, all the qualities of the generation and perfection stages will arise in us naturally. Because after all we're doing with the entire path, and particularly the Vajrayana, is engaging with this spontaneously present quality of enlightenment. On the other hand, without devotion to the Guru, even if we practice the generation and perfection phases for years, our practices will never be firm and we will never taste its fruit. So the Guru Yoga, the value of the Guru Yoga is entirely proportionate to the devotion practice. It's not about something that we need to do, a particular exercise and numbers and so forth. It's the degree to which we're open to the teacher. To that degree, we gauge and appreciate the quality of the teacher, which is something entirely intangible. As Jigme Lingpa said, to have confidence in the teacher is the ultimate refuge. It is also said, better to think of the Guru for a single instant than to meditate on a deity for millions of years. Pray to your Guru and Lord. Better to utter once the name of the teacher than to recite the names of the deities from the 4 classes of Tantra. Pray to your Guru and Lord. Better an instant uniting your mind with the Gurus than 100 years of contemplation, or 100 practices of the perfection stage. Pray to your Guru and Lord. Devotion is the essence of the generation and perfection phases. Praying to the Guru is the essence of recitation. Constant union with the Guru's mind is the essence of spiritual practice. Pray to your Guru and Lord. So it's 300 hours in the Longchen Yingtik. Is that the chanting of the mantra itself? I think the whole Guru Yoga is 720 hours, right? Yeah. Anyway. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Receiving the 4 empowerments. After reciting the 7-line prayer and Guru Rinpoche's mantra, you receive the blessings of his body, speech, and wisdom through rays of light emanating from his 3 centers and his whole body. Okay, that's confirmed. That was 300 hours of the mantra. Thank you. The letter Om in his forehead center emanates white light, which is absorbed into a corresponding letter Om in your forehead, purifying the negative actions of the body. Similarly, the letter A in his throat center emanates red light to purify negative actions of speech. And the letter Hung in his heart center emanates blue light to purify negative actions of the mind. Finally, his whole body emanates rays of 5-colored light, white, red, blue, yellow, and green, which are absorbed by your whole body. Purifying all the subtle obscurations related to your body, speech, and mind. So with this visualization, we bring to the forefront, we bring into a manifest way this sense of uniting with the teacher. So the teacher's qualities, they are then associated, of course, with the physical dimension of a verbal and a mental dimension, as well as the whole entire being of the teacher, that is embodied in all the 5 lights. And it's also associated with then the aspects that are purified then. So with the Om, the Ah, and so forth, there are various aspects then of our confusion that is eliminated and qualities of the teacher's mind with which we are empowered. So Khyentse Rinpoche goes on to say, simultaneously you receive the 4 empowerments or abhishekas. The vase empowerment from the syllable Om in the forehead, the secret empowerment from the syllable A in the throat center, the wisdom empowerment from the syllable Hong in the heart center, and symbolic empowerment, the absolute empowerment, which then comes from all the lights coming all together. And these 4 empowerments then sow in our beings, as Khyentse Rinpoche says, which sow in your being the seeds for realizing the 4 kayas. The text itself says, through the light rays from the 3 syllables at the 3 places, I obtain blessings, empowerments, and accomplishments. The Guru melts into light and dissolves into myself. Inseparable from him, rest in simplicity. At the end, the Guru above your head melts into a mass of light, which in turn dissolves into you. Now we say the Guru above our head, and in general, when we think of Guru Yoga, we think of the Guru abiding above our head. But it's also okay when we do the practice to think of the Guru in front. So it's either we can think of the Guru in front, above the head, or we can think of the Guru in front, from which we then receive empowerment. And then ultimately then the Guru melts into a mass of light, which in turn dissolves into us. Think that your mind and the Guru's mind mingle completely. And this is the point of Guru Yoga. Our mind, the Guru's mind, mingling. If we appreciate the Guru, if we have devotion to the Guru, it's on the basis of the Guru's kindness, the Guru's presence, the Guru's qualities, all of these qualities that drive us to being deeply moved, deeply touched. And at the same time, this understanding and this appreciation is not taking place anywhere except within our own mind. So when we're mingling the Guru's mind and our mind, we're actually not, we might think, oh, I'm doing something impossible. I could never have the mind of the Guru. He's far superior, or she's far superior. And that of course that's flawed understanding, because the Guru is merely this reflection that enables us to have these perceptions within ourselves. After all, where is it that the perception of the compassion, or the perception of the Guru with the qualities, this uplifted experience of the Guru, entirely is taking place on the basis of our own mind, which means that we have this potential within ourselves. And yet the circumstance of the Guru is necessary. If we're walking around the world and we keep encountering just persons or situations that generate the 5 poisons, then we're not going to have this experience. The Guru is exceptional in accomplishing of bringing out this in us. So when we mingle with the Guru's mind, we no longer are seeing the Guru as external. We're no longer relying on anything external. We're settling into this nature which was always complete from the very start, which was not identified, which was not recognized. So at that point now, this is then on the basis of our devotion, invoking the teacher, receiving all the qualities of the teacher through the various empowerments and so forth. Then all the nature of the teacher and ourselves then is at the end, is considered. Then we mingle these, and then it says, then you too dissolve into light and remain in a state of utter simplicity, the absolute nature of mind. At this point, we dissolve the reference of the teacher, we dissolve the reference of ourself, and simply just sustaining this simplicity. This has nothing about it that can be pointed to in words, in language, and so forth. This has nothing to do with any practice. This has nothing to do with anything. This is simply the innate nature of the mind, that through the kindness of the teacher, we gauge what this is, this awake quality that's unconditionally present within the mind. When thoughts arise again, you should perceive the phenomena of form, sounds, and recollections as the display of the Guru's body, speech, and mind. Now, this doesn't mean that when we're sitting there within this recognition of this simplicity of the Guru's wisdom, that when thoughts arise, that we right away should start moving about, or we can if we want. But at the same time, it might be quite helpful to train ourselves in allowing thoughts arise and then letting them also settle back into the recognition of this mind. So the natural display of this absolute nature is not going to be a particular state. It's our clarity and recognition, and within that, thoughts will arise, but that does not mean that we become distracted. If we train ourselves in sustaining this non-distraction while the thoughts arise in this state, then gradually we'll be able to practice these practices that are referred to as liberation of thoughts, spontaneous liberation, and so forth. So we shouldn't be agitated by the thoughts that arise, and simply allow them to arise and yet settle. Just like when we practice meditation in general, when thoughts arise, we allow them to arise, and yet we're not in any way carried away by them. We sustain this recognition. At the same time, it will be necessary to engage in the world, and there will be times when we can't sustain this simplicity simply because our awareness of circumstances around us and perceive this as something which is solid and so forth. So at that time, then we need to then integrate this experience of the Guru Yoga in our ordinary life. And that's where we consider that the realm that we are is a manifestation of the teacher. The sounds that we hear is the resounding of the teacher's speech, and whatever arises within the state of non-recognition, if we could carry that throughout the world of the teacher's presence, the teacher's speech, and so forth, if we could carry this recognition at all times, then we remain then within this yoga, what we call the Guru's body, speech, and mind. Khyentse Rinpoche says, all forms are the manifestations of the Guru's body. All speech and sound are the Guru's speech, and the natural resonance of the 12-syllable mantra. And all thoughts are the play of the Guru's mind. No longer deluded thoughts, but the natural creativity of awareness, the non-conceptual wisdom that is the nature of Guru Rinpoche's enlightened mind. So with the recognition of our mind and the teacher's wisdom as inseparable, then carrying that, we engage in this kind of post-meditation yoga. When we examine the mind closely, it is impossible to ascribe to it any color, shape, or location. This is its void or empty aspect. There's nothing about the mind that can be grasped, nothing about it that can be objectified. Yet the mind can perceive and know everything in samsara and nirvana. We have a mind. We have this, what very often in Buddhist scripture is referred to as clarity, which means simply that there's cognition. Doesn't mean that we're particularly clear in some sense, but it just means that the mind, even though it's absolutely intangible, it has the ability to be cognizant. So we're not talking about the quality of that cognizance, but it's merely that there's a knowing. The mind perceives and knows everything in samsara and nirvana. There is a knowing of the confused condition, there's a knowing of the non-confused condition. The degree to which we turn this into a self, in my experience, that's the degree to which we have more or less samsara. And the experience of absence of this self we refer to sometimes as nirvana or enlightenment. But it's basically about the confusion and non-confusion. And this takes place within something that is entirely intangible. Yet it's that which is basic to all that we experience. So that's where the mind is perceiving, knowing. So with these two qualities of something that's what we say empty yet cognizance, we have then the this nature of mind that we sustain. That's the place where we undertake this yoga. This is its clarity aspect. So Khyentse Rinpoche says there's the void aspect, it's intangible, yet it knows. That is its clarity aspect. What is Padma Raga? As in his throat is the syllable blazing like a Padma Raga. That's a ruby. That's Sanskrit for ruby. Yeah, lotus raga. Raga, I think, means pleasure, doesn't it, or something like that? Lotus pleasure, but anyway, it means ruby, red ruby. Syllable A. Jakob, in ngöndro, can we accumulate prostration and bodhicitta together? Because 2 hour only prostration is a bit too exasperating for me. Is it possible to mix 1 hour of prostration and then 1 hour of bodhicitta? Sorry sending this here. No, that's fine. All ngöndro questions should be brought up here. And when there's not many who are at the level of who have up to Guru Yoga yet anyway. Sorry sending this here. My instructor is a bit out of reach in the moment. Thank you for studying webinars. Now, yeah, we can do that as long as we accumulate you can do that. I would say that's all right then, but make sure you count them separately. So you are counting the 1 hour prostrations just as 1 hour, and then but yeah, you can mingle the two together. That's all right. Yeah, mind you, there's a long tradition of prostration that emphasizes that there's a little bit of we push ourselves a little bit. I know a lot of people will say, no, you mustn't push yourselves. Yes, we should push ourselves, but of course we should push ourselves gently, not in an unintelligent way. We should push ourselves in a creative, intelligent way. Otherwise, we might end up missing out on what happens when we actually do successfully go beyond our limits. So there is an important aspect to, in a gentle way, raise what we can do. So we shouldn't do anything insane, but prostration does come with some sense of no pain, no gain, and we would want to expand our capacity there. And sometimes, like traditionally, you would actually do prostration 4. Sometimes, you take breaks, but some people would go the entire day. And, in some places when you do, let's say, retreats where you do practice of this all day, you would effectively do 4 sessions of 2 hours doing prostration most of the time. Of course, it's about building up, so it's only gradually that you achieve that. And also some of us, like yours truly, we're getting on in the years. We might not have the right physical conditions for it. There's now invented the tabletop prostration. And in general, Khyentse Rinpoche is very kind and gentle about things. So it's mainly about that we just practice. But it should be known that traditionally, prostrations is work, and for hours on end. Could you clarify what it really means to visualize the Guru in the form of Guru Rinpoche? When we form a visual image in the mind, Is it an image of the Guru or of Padmasambhava? Or is it more imagining the Guru in a body mask, so to speak, of Padmasambhava? Or are we alternating between visualizing the two? It's very light. There's a very light touch to this. And we're invoking Guru Rinpoche. Sometimes, yes, we have the sense of the teacher in Guru Rinpoche's form. Sometimes we think in terms of Guru Rinpoche. Sometimes it's also in the form of the teacher. Very much whatever brings forth devotion in us. And the value of visualizing Guru Rinpoche is also that we don't think of it as just this ordinary person, which we would tend to if we just visualize the teacher in ordinary form. And yet, we also, if it invokes in us this devotion, thinking of the teacher in the teacher's ordinary form, then that's fine. So it is very much up to our own discerning, but with this understanding of the value of devotion, and also that we're not visualizing just an ordinary person. Could you explain the difference between the nirvana that the practitioner wants to avoid and the nirvana that the practitioner wants to abide with? Sometimes you hear that you want to attain nirvana, and sometimes you hear you want to run from nirvana as it's a trap. Yeah, that's right. We talk about big and small nirvana. And of course, we juxtapose samsara and nirvana because one is suffering, the other is the absence of suffering. So, but the mere absence of suffering, just on a personal level, to take that as absolute enlightenment, we would see as being an extreme. So we sometimes talk about the extremes of samsara and nirvana. It is still within the realm of grasping, because if we enter nirvana simply with the through the practice of the path, that we might gain this sense of liberation in which we abide in a state where there's no confusion and so forth, but without an awareness of the other, then we're essentially going into this space of peace and cessation where there's no perception, which is still has the potential of confusion, because there's still a sense of me. We've just blocked all perceptions, and so it's regarded as a legitimate place, if you like, but from the Mahayana point of view, it's not regarded as enlightenment. And the Mahayana PC way of perceiving this state, which is referred to as the arhat state, and a type of accomplishment, is referred to as, the PC take is that it's a bit like if you're crossing the ocean, it's nice to maybe stop on an island on the way. But it's not the real nirvana, because in the real nirvana, there's no dwelling. And that's why right from the start, we train in the non-dwelling. When we're practicing meditation, we don't go into the jhana or the samadhi of just the shamatha, where we just dwell, because that would inevitably lead to this small place. And that is why the Mahayanas, they talk about Hinayana as the lesser path, in the sense of dwelling on something. So in brief, it is that the lesser nirvana, the condition of the arhat, or what we call nirodha, is a condition where there's no longer any suffering. We could say there's a nirvana, but it's not enlightenment, because it hasn't actually purified all the cognitive obscurations. And that's why in the Mahayana we aspire to enlightenment in the sense of letting go of any reference points whatsoever, which is basic then to the teachings of the understanding of emptiness, the Madhyamika, and so forth, that we're not dwelling anywhere. And with that also comes the dedication to all sentient beings, that naturally wisdom, that vast, non-deluded, non-grasping condition of wisdom, also accommodates this continual engagement with the world around us, and hence is synonymous with this vow to always be there for sentient beings. Okay? For the empowerments, it's 60 hours. Wondering how to do. As in do, we repeat again and again and then dissolve. Yes, we for the duration of that time, we just consider that we're receiving the empowerments. Yeah, we just visualize that. And we can also at that time also we can also then accompany that with recitation of the mantra. But basically, just as we're sitting there, then we receive again and again the empowerments and the dissolution. So we practice also at the end then the samadhi of settling into the Guru's wisdom. Greetings, Jakob. In the turning of the mind prayer section of the Longchen Nyingtik Ngondro, it says, though we have received the 4 abhishekas, we do not practice utpatti and sampannakrama. Guru, free us from our way, from losing our way on the path. What is utpatti and sampannakrama? These are what Khyentse Rinpoche was referring to before, the development stages and the completion stages. The development stages being the practices that are associated with sadhana, and the completion stage that is associated with meditating on Nadi, Prana, and Bindu, like Tummo practice, and also practices of Mahamudra and Dzogchen. So the Utpatti Krama is the development stage practices, and the Sampanna Krama completion stage practices. Okay, we'll continue then. Conclusion. Now look, what I'm thinking to do, before I was saying we were going to do Khenpo Ngawang Palsang's Guide to the Words of My Perfect Teacher. Now all of us, we're going to be doing ngöndro practice for a while, so we're not going anywhere. We don't have a schedule to complete. And there's something I thought which would be very helpful in this stage, actually, just on the basis of the brevity of this presentation here, is to actually go through Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche's teachings on the Longchen Nyingtik Guru Yoga, and it's called The Wish-Fulfilling Jewel. And it's a slim volume. There you have it. And I thought to following this, to go through this book, Guru Yoga, because this is again something that's universally valuable. There we go. I think you can see it now, yeah? The Wish-Fulfilling Jewel. And following that, also before we begin with Khenpo Ngakchong's guide, to go through a work that gives very clear instruction in meditation. Because with the format that we of Tibetan Buddhism, there's a lot of emphasis on doing, but at the same time there is also continually references to mingling with the teacher's wisdom and settling into the natural state and so forth. And this very often is left not so easily taught, and sometimes it's subtle, and also it actually is something that goes against the grain of our busyness, our fidgety nature, especially us modern people. So we lack this grounding in samadhi. So I want to go through a text, which is what I very often recommend to persons that are practicing meditation, but I'd like to go through it, and it's called, let's see here, Mindfulness in Action. So it's a text by Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, And Chogyam Trungpa was really famous for his meditation. And I know many people, they think, oh, Chogyam Trungpa, he was a wild siddha and all of that. But yeah, that's rather secondary. And what Trungpa Rinpoche, what particularly was famous for was really his skill in meditation. And when he came to the West, he was very optimistic about teaching the great perfection to people, and eventually he found out that while they have an ability to understand some of the teachings of the great perfection and Mahamudra, then also there's a fidgety quality in the modern person, a restless quality that ends up obscuring this insight. And he ended up insisting that all his students practice sitting meditation before they begin ngöndro practice, and in general emphasize this practice of meditation, not just the practices of well, of course, eventually he introduced Vajrayana yoga, but at the same time also insisted that the core and the foundation of this is meditation. And other of my teachers, they very much emphasize this. Khyentse Rinpoche emphasized meditating a lot, Tuku Ujjan Rinpoche, and also some of the teachers that I hung out with actually did just that. Great Dzogchen practitioners that just sat, and sat, resting in the nature of mind. And of course, it's tricky. And very often in the Tibetan tradition, it's said that you would do this at the end of having done a lot of practices of sadhana, tumo, and so forth. At the same time, also, it seems to serve as a foundation for all of us, pretty much from any given stage that we're coming to the teachings from. So so I thought to spend some time just going through this work as well, to really clarify then what we mean with meditation in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And this doesn't matter if we're going to be addressing this very humbly in terms of shamatha and vipassana, but in a way, the way that Trungpa Rinpoche teaches is consistent with what is known as Mahamudra or Dzogchen or Trekchen. So this, I think, will be helpful for everybody. So this is the plan, and then we'll do the guide to the words of my perfect teacher. I hope that's all right. Okay, thank you. This is hi Jakob. I'm going to give a harder try to do the 2-hour prostration. I'm young and do a lot of exercise usually. I hope I'll not succumb. I guarantee you won't succumb. But at the same time, if you do want to mix it with the bodhicitta, that's all right. But just to say that, there's something very beautiful about the practice of prostrations and the devotion of it. So, what book by Trungpa Rinpoche are you mentioning we shall study together? It's called Mindfulness in Action. Yeah, Mindfulness in Action. Not to be confused with a book that came out in the 1970s called Meditation in Action. That's different. The meditation in action is more about the 6 paramitas, but mindfulness is action. In action is actually, it's a compendium by Carolyn Gimian on Trungpa Rinpoche's teachings on sitting practice. Explain the tabletop prostrations. Well, it's essentially that you stand at the end of, let's say, a dining room table, and instead of going down on your knees and lying down completely on the floor, you just stand at the end of the dining room table and you go down. Basically, your torso does the prostration. I think there are some videos out on YouTube with these. Okay. Tabletop prostration. actually a good friend of the Sangha just passed away, and I mean one of the Sangha, and he his whole family of practitioners, and his mother started practicing ngöndro when she was well into her 70s, and she then, I think she's the first person I heard of doing the tabletop prostration. Yeah. Conclusion. Your strong devotion and yearning must be combined with the wish to benefit all sentient beings. When you pray to the teacher, think that all sentient beings are praying with you as if you were leading them in prayer. When you receive the blessing of Guru Rinpoche, think that all sentient beings are receiving them with you. Pray to the teacher all the time, knowing that to offer even a single drop of scented oil to your teacher's body is more precious and beneficial for your progress toward enlightenment than to fill the whole space with offering to the Buddhas of the 10 directions. You know, in the evenings, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, he would get up around 3:34 in the morning, and he would practice just until around 8, keeping silence. The rest of the day was usually teaching and so forth, seeing people all the time. And then in the evening, there would usually be a few people that would hang around. Sometimes Rinpoche would give some formal teaching, but very often it would just be a very informal gathering just around Rinpoche. Rinpoche had a seat; it was his bed, and he would lie down in this bed, but he'd also sit in it, and so people would be gathered around him, and very often the attendants and students, men and women, and of course, because Rinpoche was a yogi, then it was equally comfortable with. It wasn't not just a monastic scene, but then the attendants or some of the people there would rub Rinpoche's legs. Rinpoche had he was very large. He was 7 feet and had very big bones, and so some of the attendants would sit in the evening and massage Rinpoche's legs, because Rinpoche was, you know, he was sedate. He just sat. He lived to a ripe old age, and I think on the basis of all his yoga practice, he was actually in okay condition. But it was very often in the evening this practice of sitting, rubbing Rinpoche's legs and rubbing his feet and so forth. And at the same time, Rinpoche would be telling stories and entertaining and so forth. There was sort of a wonderful, very informal, very sort of family atmosphere around Rinpoche. So this is where then there was opportunity to offer the scented oil. So anyway, the point here is that we include all sentient beings in whatever we're doing, and also the presence of the teacher is what we're continually sustain. This yoga that we talked about before, in terms of sustaining the natural state of the mind, in which all perceptions are seen as manifestation from that place. And the practice also then, when we we keep the memory of the teacher with us, also as a way of practicing. We pray to the teacher at all times, and there's very often a practice of reciting mantra as we go about whatever we're doing. We don't have to chant it loudly, but we can do it just in our mind. And this, try it out. Try it whenever there is something going on, to just run the mantra in our awareness. Just think, Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum, Om Ahum Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum. To keep that going makes a complete difference. It really transforms our appearances. And this is operating not within a state of a especially spiritual state. It's in fact when we're not in that spiritual state, or not in that state of recognition, and just maybe even we're not feeling that great and feeling confused, chanting the mantra is very, very helpful, just quietly. And also prayer to Guru Rinpoche, whatever the 7-line supplication or the Jetsum Guru Rinpoche, whatever it might be. And then also engaging in offering practices and so forth. At the end, Rinpoche says, dedicate the merit of this practice to all sentient beings so that they may meet Guru Rinpoche himself, hear his voice, realize his wisdom, and as soon as they die, be reborn in the Buddha field of the glorious copper-colored mountain, where, meeting Guru Rinpoche in person, they may complete the rest of the path toward enlightenment. So this is something with which we dedicate to all sentient beings. Now we generally would understand the mingling with Guru Rinpoche and being abide in the copper-colored mountain as in the absolute sense. The absolute glorious copper-colored mountain is the nature of mind. The absolute Guru Rinpoche, mingling with the absolute Guru Rinpoche, is the absolute wisdom that we're fusing with and so forth. But we also do, within the tradition, talk about actual Nirmanakayas, like Nirmanakaya Buddha fields of Amitabha and Nirmanakaya Buddha fields of the glorious copper-colored mountain. So those within the aspiration to be reborn in such a place will take rebirth that as being reborn in an actual world or as in the realm of Amitabha. And it said then, being reborn in such a place, we complete the path to enlightenment. So we have the absolute understanding of, you could say, going to Sangdopari, or the copper-colored mountain, which is enlightenment. But there's also then the Nirmanakaya, the manifested realm of Padmasambhava, which is then where we could be aspire to be reborn. So this is something that throughout our practice we then make these aspirations. In the back of the Longcheninte Ngöndro, there are two aspirations to be reborn in the copper-colored mountain. One emphasizes more the Dzogchen absolute approach, and the other emphasizing more the Nirmanakaya approach. So one understands the copper-colored mountain, the display, and so forth in terms of the visions of the Dzogchen path, and the others is more the Nirmanakaya. But at the same time, each of them speaks about understanding the two levels at the same time. Khyentse Rinpoche says, Guru Yoga is the most efficient way to progress along the path and to dispel any obstacles that you come up against. For this reason, from the very moment you enter the door of the Dharma until you achieve the ultimate realization of Ati Yoga or the Great Perfection, treasure the practice of Guru Yoga constantly in your heart and make it the center of your practice. Remember, we are not engaging in just a practice of something where we're like mindfulness, where we're just achieving a particular psychological state and staying with that, or ethical practices, which are wonderful and so forth, but yet operate within just solely applying ideals to ourselves. Here we're operating within a living context of a culture of enlightenment that the teacher manifests, and it becomes you have Dharma organizations, you have Dharma activities, you have teachings, you have this, you have YouTube, you have being with the teacher and so forth. There's continually this culture of relating to the teacher in one way or another. And basic to that is also the understanding that the teacher is never, ever outside or separate. And so we engage with this continually as our yoga, as our practice. So the very nature of the Dharma is, of course, that we're engaging with a living tradition. We have the Dharma of transmission or the theory, but we also have the Dharma of realization, the living heritage of enlightened masters coming down to the present day. And so that applies right from the beginning, the moment that we enter the door of the Dharma. And particularly then when we practice throughout the path, we have the teacher assuming various roles. In particular, then in the Vajrayana, we see the teacher as then the embodiment of enlightenment, as the perfect manifestation, and seeing the teacher as such, keeping pure perception and so forth. Then we engage with Guru Yoga, which is the continually invoking the teacher's presence. So this is the treasure, and this is really what becomes the heart of any practice that we're doing on the Vajrayana path. Whether we're doing the sadhana practice, it's all contingent on the presence of the teacher's wisdom. Whether we're doing the Nadi Prana and Bindu, where the bliss is inseparable from the teacher, whether we're doing the Ati Yoga Dzogchen, where the nature of naked awareness is inseparable from the teacher. It's continually premised on this invoking the presence of the teacher, mingling through the practice of devotion, invoking the teacher's blessing and mingling with the teacher's wisdom. There are some very helpful advice that goes with all practice, and we're going to be looking at that next time. And then once we've done that, we'll continue with the wish-fulfilling jewel. I'm sitting in an assisted living facility with my 92-year-old mom, who is playing cards while I listen to you. I'm so grateful for this series. I did miss a few, but it's okay. Thank you very much. Look forward to the next meeting. Thank you very much, and I hope your mom isn't, and we're not disturbing her card game. Talk about the frustrations. I had received from my Longchen Nyingtik ngöndro advisor a very touched and beautiful prayer for the bodhicitta that makes the physical work so meaningful. Thanks so many great advisors on the path of Longchen Nyingtik practices, especially our beloved Guru. It's also Jamyang Khyentse F, DJKF. I'm not sure what the F is. Anyway, it's also Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche. Yes, salutations. Now she's playing upwards with two others. Okay, good. Wonderful you're there with your mom. Very nice. Okay. So, see you next time. See you next Wednesday. Well, might be Tuesday some places, I think. Through this virtue, may all beings throughout existence awaken together without a single being left behind. In the pure realm of the luminous essence, the ground of the great perfection, may they remain inseparable from the kayas and wisdoms. Through all our births, wherever we may be born, may we be endowed with the 7 good qualities of the higher realms. As soon as we are born, may we meet with the Dharma and have the freedom to practice it properly. At that time, may we please the holy Gurus and practice Dharma throughout the day and night. Realizing the Dharma and accomplishing its essential meaning, may we cross the oceans of existence in that life. Thoroughly teaching the holy Dharma in this world, may we never tire of accomplishing the benefit of others. By this vast benefit of others, without partiality or bias, may all attain Buddhahood together. The last prayer that we're chanting here, the first 4 lines are actually taken from Cortland Dahl's translation of the Steps to the Great Perfection. So this is from Longchenpa. So these first 4 lines, you can find it in the Steps of the Great Perfection. And the last 3 lines, they come also from Longchenpa, and they're sort of generally chanted as the concluding prayers very often in the Longchen Nyingtik. It's quite a well-known prayer. So this is taken from the translation of the Nalanda Translation Committee. Yeah. Okay, thank you.